The metal bars felt cold. Inside the tiny cage, Alec lay huddled in a corner, trembling. His small body shook so hard that his ribs rattled. 3 other cubs crowded beside him, eyes wide with fear. Their species, called Valorians, had soft fur and bright eyes that glowed faintly in dim lights. But here, in this dark holding area, their glow was weak. The damp, concrete floor smelled of rust and sweat. A single flickering lamp overhead cast long shadows across the walls, each ratcheting. Click of the locks made Arlec's heart pound in his chest. Click, click, click. The guards had just secured them. He pressed his face to the cold bars, watching the tunnel beyond. He listened hard. Footsteps echoed. Soft at first, then heavy and sure. The sound grew closer. Arlec's breathing caught. The other cubs, Lonu, Miri, and Tycho, cowered silently. Tears rolling down their cheeks dotted the tunnel. Heavy boots tapped on metal grating. A pale figure in a dark uniform appeared, hooded, tall, broad-shouldered. Arlec could not make out his face. The guards at the entrance greeted him briefly, then shut the gate behind them with a loud clang. The cubs flinched at the noise. The lamp overhead buzzed and flickered faster. The hooded figure stood still for a moment. Then came a quiet step, slow and calm. He came closer. Arlec watched him carefully. The cube of cold air pressed around the cubs like a cage inside a cage. The figure's shadow stretched long across the floor. Arlec's mind worked fast. Is this the one who has come to buy us? Is it a new guard, or someone who can help? The cubs barely dared to breathe when the figure finally stopped 20 feet. From the cages, he raised his head. Though his hood shadowed his face, Arlec sensed something different in his stance. He was not cruel like the guards had been. He did not carry fear in his steps. Instead there was patience, purpose. The man pulled a small device from his pocket. It was shaped like a flat box. He tapped it once. A low beep echoed, and a pair of scanning lights swept down the rows of cages. Arlec held his breath. The lights came nearer to his cage than any had been before. His heart pounded. The guards flinched. The man studied the device. He looked around slowly, scanning all cages. He paused at theirs. The scanning light glowed softly over them. Arlec stared right back. Slowly, the man looked into the pockets of his dark jacket. He removed a small vial filled with pale green liquid. Then he paused. His hands trembled just a little. He drank. Arlec's stomach clenched. The vial's contents could be poison or something else. The man swallowed carefully, closed his eyes, then opened them again. The guards shifted uneasily. One guard glanced at another, then looked at the man. Who is he? At that moment, a gate rattled open in the back. More guards filed in, carrying heavy chains. They dragged another cage, this one full of adult Valorians. Larger, scarred, the new prisoners shouted and strained. One adult roared in a harsh, shaking voice, "Take them away!" But no one listened. The chained adult prisoners were shunted down the line and disappeared through a side tunnel. During all this chaos, the man stood quiet. Arlec gazed at him with a tight chest. Can he free them? The man turned slowly and took one step toward Arlec's cage. Everyone froze. Suddenly whispers echoed among the cubs. They dared not speak. Only Arlec dared a small whisper. Why does he not hurt us? Another guard barked an order. Get the shipment ready. New buyers arrive in 10 minutes. Arlec's pulse jumped. He saw fear in Miri's eyes. She whispered, "We will go to some other world, but maybe they kill us." Arlec shook his head. He moved closer to the bars. He whispered again, "Maybe he helps us." Miri stared. Tycho sniffed. The man looked at them for a moment. Then he tapped the vial once. More. The light on his scanning device turned green. He pushed a button. Buzz. A soft click sounded from the cage's lock. The cubs stared in shock. The lock unlocked mechanically, not by key. Alek's heart raced so loud he feared they would hear it. This is real. He is unlocking. The hooded man stepped back. He glanced toward the guards. They did not notice. He closed the device and slipped it back into his pocket. Then he turned and walked away. His boots tapped quietly. He vanished down the same tunnel the other adult prisoners had gone. The gate clanged shut behind him. Arlek froze for a second. Then he whispered, "He's gone, but we are alone?" Lonu shakily looked up. "The lock, it is open?" Arlek tested it. The latch moved easily. He pressed slowly. The door swung open. Air rushed in. Crisp, fresh. It smelled strange, sweet. Clever man. He left the passage open. The cubs looked at each other. Tears dried. Fear wrestled with hope. They peeked outside. The tunnel plunged into deeper darkness, but not endless. Faint lights flickered down the hall. Arlek's mind raced. He motioned silently. "Follow me." He stepped out. The cubs stumbled behind him. Each step was heavy. The floor felt cold. Shadows twisted on the walls. Arlek paused. He listened. No shouts. No alarms yet. Only distant machinery hum. He led them a few steps sideways, toward a narrower corridor. The cubs followed, breathing softly. They came to a dead end. A large metal door had a keypad. Arlek hesitated. No one had told him about this. Behind that door beyond lies freedom or death. He swallowed. Then he saw something. A small access panel beside the keypad. A tiny slot. He moved closer. It looked like an override slot. Arlek closed his eyes and whispered a promise only to himself. "I will get them out. I will protect them." He slipped his hand toward the slot, but a sudden alarm screeched. Lights flared red. Sirens echoed. Distant boots pounded fast. "Intruder alert!" A guard's voice boomed into the corridor. Arlek froze. The cubs clutched each other. Fear crashed over them. The narrow space felt like a trap, but Arlek had only one choice. He slipped his finger into the slot. It accepted no key. The door unlocked with a hiss. He jerked it open. The cubs shuffled through. He pushed them in. The metal slid shut behind them with a thud. They entered a chamber lit with pale blue. Lights, strange tech panels glowed. A long tube lay embedded in the floor. Arlek stepped between his brothers and sisters, hands shaking. Another voice. "Stop right there." Guards stood behind the heavy door, rifles raised. Arlek stepped forward and raised both hands. The cubs huddled behind him. He spoke, voice calm but firm. "I will not let them harm my friends." The guards snarled. One raised a stun baton. Arlek braced himself. But before the guard struck, a low hum started. The glowing panels around them activated. A barrier of light shimmered in front of the cubs. The guards recoiled, shielding their eyes. The room's tech buzzed. The barrier strengthened. The guards! Cursed! They tapped on their helmets and turned to each other in confusion. Arlek remained steady, breathing slowly, heart racing. He pressed a button on one panel. The barrier expanded. It covered a small section of the exit. The guards ran out of line of sight. They cannot cross. Arlek turned to the cubs. "This way," he whispered. He led them through another door at the side. They moved fast. They passed rows of strange pods and cabinets. He recognized labels. Ahmed, a 23, stasis unit. They were not alone in the base. When they passed a corner, Arlek happened upon a crate labeled Fragile Biological Samples. He glanced inside. Jars filled with glowing alien fluids and tiny specimens, alien embryos, insect creatures. He whispered, "They experiment on us." Miri gasped. Tycho shivered. Lonu shouted, "We must leave." Arlek held out his hand. "Yes," he nodded. "To freedom, come." They reached an airlock at the end of the hall. The airlock door had no guards in sight. Erlek studied the panel. It needed a passcode. He felt for the override slot. He found it. He pressed. It clicked. The door slid inward silently. Beyond lay a corridor with emergency lighting. At the far end, he could see a door marked Exit Transit Bay B3. Outside, he thought, lay the planet's surface or maybe a transport ship. The Cubs moved through slowly, trembling but determined. Erlek looked back. Empty corridor. No guards in pursuit yet. He took a breath. Miri whispered, "Erlek, what did you do?" He shook his head. "He helped us." He pointed to a small insignia on the airlock side. A faint symbol, two hands reaching out. That must be the man's faction. He glanced ahead. Transit bay doors slid silent open, revealing a wide bay. A single ship, small and sleek, stood waiting. Its lights blinked faint blue. No ramps extended. No personnel stood outside. The Cubs stared in awe. Then footsteps thundered. A dozen guards raced into the corridor from behind. Their shouts echoed. Erlek gasped. He looked at the ship. He studied the door panels. He took a final breath and sprinted. He pushed Cubs forward. "Go! Go!" They charged into the bay. The ship's door slid open. The Cubs fled inside. Erlek stayed behind to hold back the guards. He raised his arms. He shouted, "Go!" Inside, "Close it." The Cubs ran into the ship. The door began to close. Erlek turned to face the approaching guards. Their rifles aimed. He braced. A heavy hand grabbed his shoulder from behind. He spun. A guard's face loomed. Then, click. The ship's door slammed shut. He slammed into the wall. Then darkness. The bay's lights flickered and shut down. The ship's engines roared. The ship lifted. Above, a silent scream echoed in Erlek's mind, not of pain, but of promise. They will be safe. Outside, the bay door sealed tight. Smoke poured in. The guards pounded at the hatch. But it would not open. Far above, through the skylight, the stars passed. And a small bullet of human-made steel carried 4 freed Cubs toward light, memory, and hope. The ship's engines roared as it rose from the transit bay. Inside, the Cubs huddled together on the cold floor. Erlek was not with them. The small Valorian Cubs, Miri, Lonu, and Tycho, could only stare at the closed door, their tiny hands gripping each other tightly. The bay lights had vanished behind them. Only darkness and the rumbling hum of the ship surrounded them. Miri's voice trembled. "Erlek, he didn't make it." Lonu shook his head hard. "No, he will come. He promised we would all be free." Tycho sat with his back against the metal wall, his chest rising and falling fast. "We don't know where we are going. We don't even know who opened this ship for us." Miri pressed her hands over her eyes. "The human did it, the one in the hood. He helped us. But where is he now? Did the guards catch him?" The ship jolted violently. The Cubs screamed as the floor seemed to drop beneath them. A metallic voice came over the intercom. "Course set, outer orbit, secure cabin, prepare for jump." The Cubs froze. None of them understood the voice's strange language, but its tone was cold and mechanical. Lonu looked around the cabin desperately. "What does it mean? Where do we go?" The ship's metal walls hummed louder. Lights along the ceiling turned from yellow to bright white. The hum became a sharp ringing sound. Then crash. The ship lurched forward, pinning the Cubs to the floor. Stars blurred outside the small round window. The darkness of space stretched endlessly. The Cubs lay still, breathing hard. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Miri whispered, "We are not dead." Lonu opened one eye. "Not yet. But we could be soon." "What if no one is flying this ship?" Tycho sat up slowly. "I think it flies itself. But why? Where does it take us?" None of them had answers, but each of them felt a heavy ache inside. Erlek had stayed behind. He might be gone forever. Ship's secrets, the cubs gathered their courage. They stood and began to explore the small cabin. There were 2 rows of chairs bolted to the floor, a control panel they could not read, and a door at the back that led deeper into the ship. Miri hesitated at the door. She pressed the button on the side. It opened with a soft hiss. Beyond was a narrow corridor, lined with storage lockers. The cubs stepped carefully inside. Tycho opened one of the lockers. Inside were sealed boxes of food rations. They smelled strange but sweet. He tore one open. It was soft and chewy, and for the first time in days, he felt warm food in his stomach. "Eat," he whispered. "We will need our strength." They shared the rations in silence. After they had eaten, Lonu inspected the corridor. At the far end, another door waited, but it had a red light glowing above it. "What is that place?" Lonu whispered. "I don't know," said Miri, "but it could be the cockpit." They moved closer, pressing their ears against the door. They could hear faint beeps and the soft hum of engines. No voices. Lonu tried the door control. It did not open. "It's locked," he said with frustration. Miri kicked the door weakly. "We can't do anything. We don't know where we are going. We don't know if we will survive." Tycho grabbed her shoulders. "Stop. Arlek told us we would be free. He believed the human would help us. We must not give up." Miri's eyes filled with tears. "But Arlek, he is gone." Lonu touched her hand softly. "Then we must survive for him." A strange voice. Hours passed. The cubs huddled in the chairs, exhausted but too frightened to sleep. The hum of the ship was steady now, like a heartbeat. Suddenly, a soft click echoed in the cabin. "Hello." The cubs jumped. The voice was not the same as the cold mechanical voice earlier. This one was warm, soft, and familiar. "Do not be afraid," the voice said. "I am here." Miri whispered. "Who are you? Where are you?" The voice came from the ceiling speakers. "I am the one who opened the cages," it said calmly. The cubs gasped. "The human," Tycho whispered. "Yes," the voice said. "I am human. My name is Rian. I will not harm you." Miri shouted. "Where is Arlek? He stayed behind. Did you see him?" The voice was quiet for a long moment. "I saw him," Rian said finally. "He fought bravely, but I could not save him. The guards were too close." The cubs went silent. Tears filled their eyes. "I am sorry," Rian continued. "But you are alive now, and that means his sacrifice was not in vain. I will keep you safe." Lonu asked, "Where are you?" "Are you on this ship?" "No," Rian said. "I am speaking to you through the ship's systems. I am in another place. But I can guide you." Miri wiped her eyes. "Where does this ship go?" "It goes to a safe world," Rian said. "A place far from the slave camps. But you must stay hidden until we arrive. The enemy will search for you." The cubs looked at each other nervously. "Enemy?" Tycho whispered. "Yes," Rian said. "The ones who captured you. They will not stop easily, but I have a plan, and I will tell you what to do." Training the cubs over the next hours, Rian taught the cubs how to use the ship systems. He showed them how to read simple symbols on the screens, how to check fuel levels, and how to open or close the doors. "You must be ready," he said. "If someone tries to board this ship, you must lock the doors and hide." The cubs listened carefully. They practiced moving quickly through the corridors, sealing the doors behind them. Rian guided them with patience. At one point, Miri asked, "Why are you helping us? You are human. You are not one of us." There was a long pause. Then Rian said softly, "Because I know what it feels like to be in chains. I will not let that happen to one if I can stop it." His voice was calm but full of pain. The cubs could sense that Rian carried scars of his own. A warning. The ship's sensors beeped suddenly. Rian's voice became urgent. "Listen to me. We are not alone. Another ship is following you. The cubs ran to the small window. In the distance they could see faint lights too, then 3 growing brighter. They are slave hunters, Rian said. They want to take you back. We must act fast. What can we do? Lonu asked, panicked. You must reach the cockpit, Rian said. You must take control. But it's locked. Miri cried. There is a way, Rian said. I will guide you. Breaking in, Rian led the cubs to a small panel near the cockpit door. Remove it, he said. Tikal pulled hard. The panel came loose, revealing wires and circuits. Now, Rian said, you must cut the red wire. The cubs stared. There were 3 red wires. Which one? Lonu asked. The one that is brightest, Rian said calmly. Hurry! Lonu closed his eyes and picked one. He bit it hard with his small teeth. Sparks flew. The door beeped and unlocked. The cubs pushed it open. They stepped into the cockpit for the first time. Taking control, the cockpit was filled with glowing screens and buttons. The stars outside looked huge through the wide front window. Sit in the chair, Rian said. I will show you what to do. Lonu climbed into the chair. His small hands shook as he touched the controls. Good, Rian said. Now change course. We must hide in the asteroid field ahead. Lonu tried to move the control stick, but it was heavy. Miri and Tykel helped him. The ship slowly turned. Faster, Rian urged. The hunters are close. The cubs pushed with all their strength. The ship responded, diving toward a cluster of dark rocks in space. Behind them, the hunter ships closed in. The chase stay low, Rian said. Hide behind the largest rocks. Do not let them see you. The cubs guided the ship clumsily through the asteroid field. Huge stones drifted past, some close enough to scrape the hull. A bright beam of light swept across the field. The hunters were searching. They see us. Miri shouted. Not yet, Rian said. Cut the engines now. Lonu hit the button Rian showed him. The ship went silent. It drifted among the asteroids like a dead rock. The hunter ships passed overhead. The cubs held their breath. Do not move, Rian whispered. Minutes passed. Finally, the lights of the hunters faded into the distance. You did it, Rian said. Softly, you are safe, for now. The promise. The cubs collapsed in relief. They were exhausted, but they had survived. Rian, Miri whispered, will you really keep us safe? Will we reach the safe world? Yes, Rian said. I promise I will not fail you. But you must trust me, and you must be strong. The cubs nodded slowly. Tykel asked, what happens when we get there? Will we ever see you? Rian's voice was quiet. Maybe. Or maybe I will only watch from far away. But know this, you will be free. That is all that matters. The cubs felt a spark of hope. They curled up together in the cockpit, looking at the stars. Cliffhanger. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Rian's voice became sharp. Listen carefully. The hunters have called reinforcements. A warship is coming, much larger than the ones before. You must prepare yourselves. The cubs stared at the screens. A massive red shape appeared in the distance, moving fast. Miri whispered, it's too big. We cannot fight that. Rian said quietly, then we must do the impossible. I will tell you how. The ship's lights dimmed as the enemy warship closed in. The cubs held their breath. The enemy warship closed in fast. Its dark silhouette filled the stars, blocking the distant light. Inside the small transport ship, the cubs stared at the screen with wide, frightened eyes. Miri, Lonu, and Tykel clung to each other. Rian. Miri's voice was small. It's too big, we can't run. The human's calm voice came through the speakers. Listen to me carefully, Rian said. You can survive this, but you must do exactly what I say. Lonu's hands trembled as he held the control stick. What if we fail? You won't, Rian said firmly. But you must be brave. This warship is not just here for you. It wants to send a message. If they take you back, they will make an example of you. We cannot let that happen." The cubs looked at each other. Tycho whispered, "What do we do?" "Preparing for battle. First," Rian said, "you must stay calm. The warship is scanning for your energy signature. If we shut everything down, it will think you are debris." Lonu frowned. "Debris?" "Dead rock," Rian explained. "Something not alive. That will give us time." "But if we turn everything off," Miri said, "we will be blind too." "Yes," Rian said softly, "but I will guide you." He instructed them to power down the engines, shields, and lights. The ship went silent. Only the soft hum of life support remained. The cubs held their breath as darkness swallowed them. Enemy warship loomed closer. Through the cockpit window, the cubs could see rows of glowing red lights along its hull. Each one felt like an eye watching them. The hunters' close-in minutes felt like hours. The cubs sat frozen. Lonu whispered, "Do they see us?" Rian's voice was a low whisper. "Not yet. They are scanning. Do not move. Do not make a sound." Miri squeezed Tycho's hand. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Suddenly, a beam of red light swept across the asteroid field. It passed over their ship, lighting up every corner of the cockpit. The cubs held their breath. The light moved on. "Good," Rian said. "They believe you are debris, but that will not last. We must act first." Rian's voice became serious. "We are going to disable the warship before it disables you." The cubs gasped. "Disable them? We can't fight them." Lonu said. "You don't need to fight them directly," Rian said. "There's a weak point on their hull. If we hit it, we can blind their sensors and escape." "How?" Tycho asked. "There's a weapon on your ship," Rian explained. "It was hidden for emergencies. You must find it and arm it." The cubs left the cockpit and hurried through the corridor. Rian guided them to a sealed storage room. Inside was a small rack holding one long narrow launcher and 3 glowing missiles. Miri touched the launcher carefully. "We can't carry this." "Yes, you can," Rian said. "It is light. One of you will aim, the others will steady it." The cubs struggled to lift the weapon. It was heavy for their small arms, but they managed. "Take in position. Now go." "Back to the cockpit," Rian said. "There is a hatch on the floor. Open it." Lonu found the hatch and pulled it up. A small platform led outside the ship's hull, shielded only by thin plating. "You will fire from there," Rian said. "But you must be quick. Once they see the shot, they will attack." Miri's heart pounded. "Who will fire?" Lonu looked at his siblings. "I will," he said, voice shaking. Miri shook her head. "No, I will." Tycho interrupted. "We cannot argue. We do this together." The first strike, the cubs crawled out onto the small platform, clutching the weapon. Space stretched around them, endless and terrifying. The enemy warship's hull glowed red in the distance. "Steady," Rian whispered. "Aim for the circular vent near the ship's lower hull. That is their sensor array. If you hit it, they will be blind." The cubs raised the launcher. Lonu balanced it on his shoulder while Miri and Tycho held it steady. Their small claws slipped on the metal, but they tightened their grip. "Now," Rian said. "Fire!" Lonu pressed the trigger. A bright blue missile shot across the void. The cubs watched as it streaked toward the warship. Explosion, the missile struck the vent. A brilliant flash lit up the darkness. The enemy warship shuddered. Pieces of its hull blew outward, scattering debris. "Yes," Miri cried. "We hit it." But their victory was short-lived. The warship's remaining sensors locked onto their position. Red lights flared. Turrets turned toward the cub ship. "They see us!" Tycho shouted. "Get back inside!" Rian yelled. "Now!" The cubs scrambled through the hatch as a volley of energy blasts tore through the asteroid field. One blast struck a nearby rock, sending shards flying. The Cubs tumbled into the cockpit. Lonu slammed the hatch shut. Running for their lives, engines on, Rian ordered. Lonu hit the power controls. The ship roared back to life. He grabbed the control stick and dove behind a large asteroid. Energy blasts lit up the field behind them. The enemy warship was furious. "They will try to destroy you now," Rian said. "You must be faster than them." Miri's claws dug into the chair as Lonu swerved the ship between rocks. The Cubs could feel the heat of near misses as blasts streaked past. "We can't outrun them forever." Lonu shouted. Double quotes, "Yes, you can," Rian said. "There is a jump point ahead. I will guide you." The trap as the Cubs followed Rian's directions. They saw something strange, a faint glowing ring in the distance. "That is the jump point," Rian said. "If you pass through it, you will jump to safety." But the enemy warship was closing fast. "They will reach us before we get there," Tycho cried. "Not if we set a trap," Rian said. "What trap?" Miri asked. "There are 2 missiles left," Rian said. "You will use them to collapse an asteroid behind you. It will block the warship's path." The Cubs nodded. They knew it was their only chance. Setting the trap, Lonu and Tycho worked together to aim the launcher from the cockpit hatch. They fired the first missile at a massive asteroid. The explosion cracked the rock in half, sending debris spinning into the warship's path. But the enemy ship did not stop. It fired its own weapons, blasting through the debris. "They are too strong," Miri cried. "Fire the last missile," Rian said calmly. "But aim for the asteroid above them. Time it right." Lonu closed his eyes, took a breath, and fired. Missiles streaked upward, striking the huge asteroid overhead. The rock shattered. Chunks the size of houses rained down on the warship. This time, it could not dodge. The debris slammed into its hull. One of its engines exploded in a burst of flame. "Yes," Tycho shouted. "We hit them. Escape. Now go." Rian shouted. The Cubs pushed the engines to full power. The ship shot forward, weaving through the remaining asteroids. The jump point grew larger. Behind them, the enemy warship struggled. Its engines were failing, but it was not destroyed. "They are charging their main weapon," Rian warned. "You must reach the jump point before they fire." The Cubs' ship rattled violently as they pushed it to its limits. The glowing ring of the jump point filled the cockpit window. "Almost there," Rian urged. A blinding beam of energy burst from the enemy warship. It streaked toward the Cubs. "Jump!" Rian shouted. Lonu slammed the jump control. Through the jump, the ship lurched forward. The stars stretched into lines of light. The enemy beam missed by inches, vanishing into the void. The Cubs screamed as the ship twisted and spun through the jump corridor. Colors swirled around them. Then, suddenly, everything went silent. They emerged into a new star system. The Cubs collapsed in their chairs, shaking. "We made it," Miri whispered. But Rian's voice was grave. "Yes, but the enemy will track your jump. We do not have much time before they find you again." A new problem. The Cubs' relief faded. "We can't keep running forever," Lonu said. "I know," Rian said. "That is why we must find allies. There's a small colony in this system. They may help you, but we must reach them before the enemy does." "Where is it?" Tycho asked. Rian guided them to a map on the cockpit screen. A small planet glowed at the edge of the system. "That is our destination," Rian said. "But the journey will not be easy. There are dangers even I cannot predict." The Cubs looked at the planet. It was far, and the ship's fuel was running low. The whispered fear as they traveled toward the planet. The Cubs had time to think. They thought of Erlek, who had stayed behind. They thought of their parents, who might still be trapped in other camps. "Rian," Miri whispered, "will we ever be safe?" "Truly safe." Rian's voice was quiet. "I cannot promise that. But I can promise this. You will not face it alone. I will stay with you as long as I can." The cubs felt a little stronger hearing those words, but deep inside, fear still whispered. What if the enemy finds us first? Cliffhanger hours later, the planet finally came into view. It was small, covered in forests and lakes. "We are close," Rian said. "Prepare to land." Suddenly, an alarm blared. "What now?" Lonu cried. Rian's voice was sharp. "I am detecting another ship." "No many ships. They are waiting near the planet. It is an ambush." The cubs stared at the screens. Dozens of red dots appeared around the planet, moving slowly into position. Miri whispered, "They knew we would come here." "Yes," Rian said, "and now we must find a way through them, or we will not survive." The cubs' ship hurtled toward the waiting enemy fleet, engines burning. The enemy fleet spread like dark clouds around the small planet below. Red lights flickered on their ships, scanning the vast black space. The cubs' ship, small and fragile, approached the planet's atmosphere with a mixture of fear and hope inside. Miri, Lonu, and Tycho prepared for what might be their most dangerous challenge yet. The stars outstreaked by as the ship's engines pushed harder. The hum of the ship was loud in the silence. "Look at them," Miri whispered, her eyes wide as she watched the fleet on the screens. "They want to trap us," Lonu nodded. "They think we're weak. They don't know we fight." Tycho's claws tightened on the console. "We have to get through. We have no choice." The Planrian's calm voice filled the cockpit. "Listen carefully. The fleet will try to block all exits from the planet's orbit. Their ships are strong, but slow. We are small and fast." Miri frowned. "We can't just run through them." "No." Rian said, "We need to use the shadows. The asteroid belt near the planet can hide us if we move carefully." Lonu turned to Rian. "How do we find the asteroid belt? And how do we stay hidden?" Rian showed them a holographic map. The asteroid belt was a swirling cloud of rocks and ice on one side of the planet. "We will fly close to the surface and slip into the belt." "But the enemy has sensors," Tycho said. "They will see us." "Not if we use the planet's magnetic storms," Rian said. "They create noise that blocks sensors." Miri's eyes shone with hope. "Then let's do it." Entering the storm, the cubs tightened their grips as the ship approached the planet's atmosphere. The screens showed bright flashes and pulses, massive magnetic storms. Rolling across the planet like waves. The ship trembled as it entered the outer edge of the storm. Lightning crackled, and the radio crackled with static. "Hold on," Rian said calmly. "This is our chance." The enemy fleet tried to scan through the storm, but their signals were lost in the interference. The cubs pushed the ship closer to the planet's surface, weaving between towering mountains and deep valleys. Lonu adjusted the controls, following Rian's guidance. "The asteroid belt is just ahead." Into the shadows, the ship slid into the thick cloud of asteroids. Huge rocks drifted around them, some close enough to scrape the ship's hull. The cubs held their breath, careful not to make sudden moves. "Stay quiet," Rian whispered. "The enemy's sensors can still reach us if we're careless." Miri looked out the window, her eyes searching the darkness. She saw faint red lights moving on the edges of the asteroid field. Enemy ships were nearby. "They're looking for US," she said. Tycho nodded. "But we are hidden now." Close calls. Suddenly, the ship jolted. A sharp sound echoed through the hull. "What was that?" Lonu asked, eyes wide. "A rock hit us," Miri said, pointing to a small crack in the window. The cubs held their breath as the ship shook. "We have to be more careful," Rian said. "The enemy is close." The ship's sensors picked up movement. A small group of enemy fighters had entered the asteroid belt. "They are hunting us," Rian warned. "The chase begins." The enemy fighters zipped through the rocks, searching for any sign of the cubs' ship. Lonu pushed the engines harder, trying to outmaneuver them. The ship weaved between rocks, narrowly avoiding collisions. Miri and Tycho helped by watching the sensors and warning of incoming ships. We can't lose them, Tycho said, his voice tense. Not yet, Rian said. But soon we must fight. Ambush the... Cubs saw a narrow gap between two massive asteroids. It looked like a perfect escape route. Go there. Miri shouted. The ship surged forward, slipping into the gap, but the enemy fighters anticipated it. They blocked the way, surrounding the Cubs' ship. We're trapped. Lonu said. Fight or flight. The Cubs prepared for battle. Lonu took the control stick, his claws shaking but steady. Rian, what do we do? Miri asked. Use the ships. Weapons, Rian said. Aim for their engines. Tycho loaded the weapon systems, targeting the nearest fighter. The Cubs fired a burst of energy beams. One enemy ship exploded, sending fiery debris into the darkness. Turning the tide, the remaining fighters charged. The Cubs dodged blasts, flying close to the asteroids to avoid fire. Miri saw a fighter trying to flank them. She shouted a warning. Lonu spun the ship sharply, avoiding a hit. He fired the ship's last missile. The missile struck the fighters. Wing, crippling it. Victory and loss. The enemy fighters retreated, disappearing into the darkness. The Cubs let out a breath they didn't know they were holding. We did it, Tycho said, smiling weakly. But our ship is damaged, Miri said, pointing to cracks and sparks on the control panels. Rian's voice was serious. We must land soon to repair. The colony is not far. The colony, the planet's surface, came into view, a lush world of forests, lakes, and mountains. Lonu guided the ship toward a clearing surrounded by tall trees. Prepare for landing, Rian said. The ship shook as it entered the atmosphere. The Cubs held on tight. Safe for now. The ship landed with a soft thud. The engines powered down. The Cubs looked at each other, exhausted but alive. We made it, Miri whispered. But outside, shadows moved in the trees. Unknown eyes watched the ship silently. Cliffhanger. Suddenly, a voice spoke from the darkness. You should not have come here. The Cubs spun around, facing a group of strangers. Their faces were strange and unfamiliar. Who are you? Lonu asked, voice shaking. The leader stepped forward, a tall figure with sharp eyes. We are the guardians of this world, he said, and you are not welcome. The Cubs' hearts pounded. They were free from one danger, but a new one was waiting. The Cubs' ship sat quietly on the forest floor. Outside, the tall trees swayed gently in the soft wind, but the air was thick with tension. The strangers who had appeared from the shadows surrounded the ship. Their faces were unfamiliar and serious. Miri, Lonu, and Tycho stood close together, their small bodies tense. The leader, a tall figure with sharp eyes, stepped forward. You should not have come here, he said again, his voice low but firm. Lonu swallowed hard and asked, Why? We need help. We are running from the slave hunters. Please, let us stay. The leader looked at them carefully. This planet is protected. We do not allow strangers, especially those hunted by enemies, to come freely. Miri's voice was small but steady. We only want a safe place to live. The leader shook his head. Many come seeking refuge, but not all are safe. Your enemies will follow you here. We cannot risk our people. Tycho stepped forward. We will fight if we must. But we don't want to hurt anyone here. The leader's eyes narrowed. Words are easy. Actions matter more. You will prove your intentions. The Cubs were led by the Guardians through the forest to a large stone circle. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and moss. The circle glowed faintly under the moonlight. This is the trial circle, the leader explained. Here you will face a test. It is not a battle of weapons, but of spirit. You must show you belong here. Miri looked at her siblings. What kind of test? She asked nervously. You will enter the circle one at a time, the leader said. The circle reveals your fears. You must face them and not run. Lonu looked uneasy. How do we do that? Step inside and be still, the leader said. The circle will do the rest. Facing fear, Miri was first. She stepped into the circle, her heart pounding. The glow around her grew brighter. Suddenly, the trees vanished, and she was alone in a dark cave. A voice whispered in the darkness, "You are weak. You cannot protect your siblings." Miri's breath caught. She looked around but saw no one. "No," she said aloud, her voice shaking. "I am strong. I will protect them." The cave shifted, and the darkness faded. The trees and stars returned. The circle's glow dimmed. Miri stepped out, tears in her eyes but a new strength in her heart. Lonu's tree Lonu stepped forward next, swallowing his fear. Inside the circle, he found himself on a battlefield. He saw enemies surrounding his siblings. He tried to run to them, but his legs felt heavy. A voice echoed, "You will fail them. You are not a leader." Lonu clenched his fists. "I am their protector. I will not fail." The battlefield disappeared, replaced by the familiar forest. Lonu stepped out, breathing hard but proud. Tychel's challenge Etical was last. Inside the circle he faced a stormy sea. Waves crashed against a tiny boat where his family was trapped. The voice said, "You cannot save them. They will drown." Tychel gripped the edge of the boat tightly. "I will find a way. I never give up." The storm calmed, and the sea became peaceful. Tychel stepped out with determination shining in his eyes. Acceptance, the leader and guardians watched silently. When all three had finished, the leader nodded slowly. "You have passed the trial circle," he said. "Your courage and will are clear." Miri smiled weakly. "Does this mean we can stay?" The leader paused. "Yes, but there are conditions. You must respect our laws and protect this world as we do." Lonu bowed his head. "We will." New friends over the next days. The cubs learned about the Guardians people. They were called the Solari, protectors of the planet. The Solari were strong, wise, and skilled in both peace and battle. The Solari showed the cubs their village hidden deep in the forest. It was made of tall trees shaped into homes, glowing softly at night. Miri felt hope for the first time in weeks. "This could be home," she said. Tychel nodded. "A place to be safe." But even among the Solari, the cubs felt the weight of their past. They missed Erlek and feared the hunters would never stop chasing them. Shadows of the past one evening. While the cubs sat near a fire, Rian's voice came through the ship's cum. "I have news," he said. "The slave hunters are gathering. They will send more ships." Miri's heart sank. "How do we stop them?" Rian sighed. "You cannot run forever. The Guardians can help, but you must prepare." Lonu clenched his fists. "We will fight. We will protect this planet and each other." Training begins. The Solari began training the cubs. They taught them how to move silently in the forest, how to listen to the wind, and how to fight with simple weapons. Lonu learned to use a bow. Miri practiced throwing knives, and Tychel trained in hand-to-hand combat. The cubs grew stronger every day, their small bodies filled with new skills and hope, preparing defenses. Guardians and the cubs worked together to build defenses around the village. They set traps in the forest and created hidden shelters. Miri helped plan patrols, and Tychel checked weapons. Lonu stood with the Guardians, learning their strategies. The cubs were no longer just victims. They were becoming warriors. The warning one. Night. The Solari scouts returned with urgent news. "The hunter's fleet is near," the leader said grimly. "They will attack soon." Miri's eyes filled with fear, but also determination. "We are ready." The cubs and Guardians prepared for battle. The battle begins. The night was dark and quiet as the hunters' ships descended from the stars. They opened fire on the village's outskirts. The cubs and Solari fought side by side, arrows flying and blades clashing. Lonu shouted orders, moving quickly between fighters. Miri's knives found their targets, and Tychel's strength stopped enemies. In their tracks, a costly fight, the battle was fierce. The hunters had numbers, but the Guardians knew the land. The cubs fought bravely but were pushed back. One hunter grabbed Miri. She struggled but was saved by Tycho just in time. The fight continued through the night, the turning point as dawn broke. The cubs and guardians made a final stand near the village center. Lonu spotted the hunters. Leader, a tall figure with cruel eyes. "We have to stop him," Lonu said. Miri nodded. Together. The final clash, the cubs charged forward, their weapons ready. The hunters. Leader met them with a fierce roar. The fight was fierce and desperate. Miri dodged a blow and slashed. His arm. Lonu knocked the leader off balance. Tycho landed a strong punch that sent the leader falling. Victory and loss with their leader defeated. The hunters began to retreat. The cubs cheered, but the cost was heavy. The village was damaged, and some guardians were hurt. Miri looked at her siblings. "We won, but we lost much," Lonu nodded. "We will rebuild." A new beginning. The cubs stood with the Solari as the sun rose. Rian's voice came through again. "You fought well. But the war is not over." Miri looked up at the sky. "Then, we will keep fighting." The cubs knew their journey was far from finished, but now they had a home and friends who would stand with them. The sun rose slowly over the Solari village. Its soft light painted the trees gold and made the gentle wind dance among the leaves. The cubs, Miri, Lonu, and Tycho, stood together, looking out over the forest. Their faces showed weariness, but also quiet determination. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Rian's voice came through the ship's cum, breaking the silence. "I have new information," he said. "The slave hunters have a secret weapon. Something powerful, hidden on a moon. Near this system," Lonu frowned. "A secret weapon? What kind?" "I don't know exactly," Rian admitted. "But it can change the battle. We must find it before they use it." The plan to search. The guardians gathered in the villages. Great hall. The room was lit by glowing crystals, casting soft light on serious faces. The leader of the Solari spoke first. "We cannot let this weapon stay hidden. It threatens us all." Miri looked around. "How will we find it?" Rian's voice came over the cum again. "We have to send a small team to scout the moon. The moon is covered in caves and old ruins. The hunters may have built their base there." Lonu stood. "We will go, the three of us." The leader nodded slowly. "It is dangerous, but your courage is clear. We will help you prepare." Preparing for the mission, the cubs trained harder than before. They learned to use new tools, scanners that could see through walls, and small weapons that made no sound. The Solari gifted them with cloaking cloaks, which could make them nearly invisible in shadows. Miri practiced moving quietly through the forest, her steps soft like falling leaves. Tycho learned to use the scanners, watching screens for hidden dangers. Lonu studied the maps of the moon, memorizing every detail. Leaving the village the night before the mission, the cubs stood outside the village, looking up at the stars. Miri whispered, "This feels like the most dangerous thing we have ever done." Lonu nodded, "But we must do it. If the hunters have that weapon, we cannot wait." Tycho added, "We will be careful. We will come back." The guardians gave them final gifts, small crystals that glowed when danger was near. The cubs hugged their friends and climbed into the small shuttle that would take them to the moon. Landing on the moon was cold and dark, covered in rocky hills and deep caves. The shuttle landed with a soft bump. The cubs stepped out, their cloaking cloaks hiding them from sight. The air was thin and dry. Strange sounds echoed through the caves. Miri shivered. "This place feels wrong." Lonu nodded. "We must find the weapon fast." Into the ruins, they moved carefully through the ruins. Broken walls covered in strange symbols, old machines rusting in the dark. Tycho scanned the area. "There is something ahead. Movement." The cubs crouched, hiding behind large stones. Suddenly, figures appeared, hunter scouts, patrolling the ruins. Miri held her breath. We must avoid them. They slipped silently past the scouts, hearts pounding at the hidden base. Deeper in the caves they found a metal door, sealed shut. Lonu used a small tool to hack the lock. The door hissed open. Inside was a large room filled with machines, glowing tubes, wires, and strange weapons. Miri gasped. This is it, the secret base. Tycho moved closer to a control panel, scanning for information. The weapon the cubs discovered a large device, a glowing orb surrounded by cables. Rian's voice came through the cum. That must be the weapon. It looks like an energy core. Lonu frowned. What does it do? Rian's voice was serious. If powered up, it can destroy entire planets. We must disable it. Miri looked at the orb. How? Sabotage. The cubs worked together, following Rian's instructions. They cut cables and disabled controls, trying not to make noise. Suddenly, alarms blared. The hunters had discovered them. Escaped. The cubs ran through the caves. The sound of boots closed behind. They reached the shuttle, engines roaring. Miri fired at the hunters chasing them, buying time. The shuttle lifted off, dodging energy blasts. Safe. For now. The cubs looked back as the moon grew smaller. We did it, Tycho said, breathing hard. But the hunters will come again, Lonu said. A new danger back in the village. The Guardians warned of more ships approaching. The cubs prepared once more, knowing the fight was far from over. The air in the Solari village was heavy with fear. The cubs, Miri, Lonu, and Tycho stood on the wooden platform at the center of the village, surrounded by guardians. They had returned from the moon with news that chilled everyone. The slave hunter's secret weapon had been discovered and partly disabled, but the enemy was now enraged. They are coming here, Rian's voice said over the ship's cum. Their fleet is already moving. They will throw everything they have at you. The Solari leader looked at the cubs. We cannot abandon this world, he said firmly. This is our home. If we run, they will find us wherever we go. Lonu's small fists tightened. Then, we fight. We can't let them take anyone else. Miri's voice was soft but determined. We will stand together. We are stronger now. Preparing the defenses, the Solari wasted no time. Every warrior in the village began building barricades and traps in the forest. Wooden spikes were hidden in the ground, and vines were stretched across paths to trip the enemy. The cubs helped wherever they could. Miri and Tycho sharpened weapons and distributed them, while Lonu studied maps of the terrain with the Solari. Leader, this will be our stand, the leader said. We must make the enemy believe we are stronger than we are. Rian guided them from the ship's systems. I will assist with long-range sensors. I can warn you when the enemy enters the system. Waiting for the storm that night, the village was quiet. The guardians sat around fires, sharpening blades and checking arrows. The cubs could hear the distant howls of night creatures in the forest. Miri sat beside Tycho, staring into the fire. Do you think we can win? She asked. Tycho didn't answer right away. I don't know, but we have no choice. If we fall, the hunters will enslave others. Lonu walked up, holding a bow. We will win, he said firmly. Because we must. The enemy arrives at dawn. Rian's voice came through the cum. The fleet has entered orbit. Dozens of ships. They will land in less than an hour. The cubs looked at the sky. Small specks of light appeared far above, growing larger by the minute. They're here, Miri whispered. The Solari leader called out to everyone. Positions, remember the plan. Do not waste energy. Strike hard, strike fast. The cubs took their places in the trees, cloaked by branches and leaves. The first wave the hunters landed in the forest with loud crashes. Their armored boots crushed the undergrowth as they moved forward in tight formations. Suddenly, traps triggered. Spikes shot from the ground, vines pulled enemies off their feet, and arrows rained from the trees. Miri hurled knives at targets, each one finding its mark. Tycho leapt from a branch, landing on a hunter and knocking him to the ground. Lonu led a group of guardians deeper into the forest, drawing enemy forces into a narrow pass where they were ambushed, fighting in the shadows. The hunters fought fiercely, but the Solari and cubs knew the terrain. They struck from the shadows, disappearing before the enemy could react. Rian's voice guided them. More enemies are moving from the west. Cut them off at the river. The cubs sprinted through the forest. They reached the river and set explosive charges on the bridge. When the hunters tried to cross, Lonu gave the signal. The bridge exploded, sending enemy soldiers plunging into the water below. The fleet's power. Despite their victories on the ground, the fleet's ships began bombarding the forest from orbit. Massive explosions shook the earth, tearing apart trees and scattering defenders. We can't hold if they keep firing from above, Tycho shouted. Rian's voice came through, tense. I have an idea, but it is dangerous. I can overload the disabled energy core we found on the moon. It will create a pulse that disables their ships, but it will also destroy my systems permanently. Miri gasped. Rian, you can't. We need you. You need to survive, Rian said calmly. That is what matters. The sacrifice, the cubs argued, but Rian had already started the process. You have 5 minutes, he said. Get as far from the enemy fleet as possible. The Solari leader ordered everyone to retreat into the deepest parts of the forest. The cubs stayed behind, covering the withdrawal. Lonu shot arrow after arrow, slowing the hunters' advance. Miri threw her last knives with deadly precision. Tycho tackled a hunter who tried to reach them, both of them crashing to the ground. Finally, they ran. The sky lit up with a blinding flash. A wave of energy rippled through the air, knocking the cubs to the ground. When they looked up, the enemy ships in the sky were falling. One by one, they lost power and crashed into the forest, sending up pillars of smoke. The hunters on the ground panicked. Without their ships, they had no escape. The Solari and cubs surrounded them, forcing them to surrender. Miri whispered, Rian. Did it work? The cub was silent. Aftermath, the battle was over. The hunters were captured, their ships destroyed. But the cost was heavy. Many Solari were injured, and parts of the forest were burned. The cubs searched through the wreckage for Rian's core. Finally, they found the small metal device. Its lights were dark. Miri held it close, tears in her eyes. He saved us. Lonu put a hand on her shoulder. He will always be with us in everything we do. Rebuilding in the days that followed, the Solari and cubs worked together to rebuild the village. New homes were built where the old ones had burned, and the forest slowly healed. The cubs helped repair defenses and trained with the guardians. They were no longer frightened children. They were warriors. One evening, the Solari leader called them to the Great Hall. You are part of us now, he said. This is your home as much as ours. And together, we will watch the stars for any new threat. A message from the stars. Weeks later, as the cubs watched the night sky, a faint signal came through the cum. Miri gasped. It's Rian. The voice was faint, but it was there. I am still here. My systems are damaged, but I will watch over you from afar. The cubs smiled through their tears. You saved us, Lonu whispered, and we will honor you. Freedom. The cubs stood together on the platform overlooking the forest. The wind brushed their faces, carrying the scent of fresh earth and life. We are free, Tycho said softly. Yes, Miri replied. But freedom is something we must protect, always. Lonu looked up at the stars. We will fight for others, like Rian fought for us. We will never let the hunters rise again. The 3 siblings held hands, their hearts filled with hope and strength. They knew the future would not be easy, but they were ready, because they had learned what it meant to break chains and to never wear them again.